Hello everyone, Mr. Love here, coming to you from outside the diesel shop. Today we're just going to do a quick little driving around little operation of our International 4700 here that we use for our CDL training. So we have multiple trucks here at the school that we use for CDL training. This is our one that we use most of the time just because it's a four-door. We can put more students inside there. So we have this International 4700, we have a Freightliner FL60, and we do have a newer International Workstar. So this one here, this one's a 5-speed synchronized transmission, pretty easy one to shift. We have air brakes and everything on there, so there wouldn't be any restrictions on our CDL. So we'll just go through a couple little operation things today. Inside the cab, a couple things to watch out for when we're out driving around on the road. Before we get started here, we're just going to go over a couple things real quick. So a few things that we definitely want to do for our CDL road test. We want to make sure that we have a standard transmission. We want to make sure we have air brakes. If we don't have air brakes or standard transmission, we'll get restrictions on our license. So today we're kind of just using this dump truck here. It'll be a Class B CDL. We don't have a trailer behind us. If we had a trailer behind us, then it'll be a Class A if the trailer was above 10,000 pounds. Okay, so just a couple things we want to remember while we're going through here. So since it is a standard transmission, we got our 3 pedals. We have our clutch, our brake, and our gas pedal, obviously. Whenever we're shifting through our gears, we don't want to keep our foot on the clutch pedal. So we want to push in the clutch, we want to put it into our gear, then let out the clutch and put our foot down on the floor. We don't want to keep our foot riding on the clutch. Also, with this transmission is a synchronized transmission, so we don't have to worry about double clutching or anything like that. Another thing we don't have to worry about is a clutch brake on here. So with our non-synchronized transmissions, we have a clutch brake on it, where if we wanted to put it into first gear, second gear, whatever like that, we would push our clutch all the way down to the floor when we went to take off. And what that does, it stops our transmission from spinning and allows our engine and transmission to lock together there for us. Kind of holds it in place while it goes into gear for us. If we have a non-synchronized transmission, we never want to push our clutch all the way to the floor as we're shifting through our gears or coming downshifting to a stop or anything. We never want to push our clutch all the way down to the floor. It's going to destroy our clutch brake. So kind of get used to that as you're driving around, practicing and stuff like that. The only time you have to push your clutch all the way to the floor in a non-synchronized transmission, like I said, is when you first go to put it into a gear from a dead stop. So usually what we do, we just push down our clutch just enough to disengage it so we can, shift through our gears. And also, if you had to push it all the way to the floor each time, it would make your leg tired throughout the day, after you shift a couple thousand times throughout the day. So we'll just push our clutch in enough to disengage it, then we can shift through our gears, and we'll let it out. So our synchronized transmission here, we have a 5-speed. We do have a 2-speed rear end. We'll talk about it a little bit out on the road there. But this one's just a 5-speed, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. We usually only have to use first gear if it's fully loaded. We'd usually just shift from between second and fifth gear in this truck that we have here. Okay. We have our hand on our shifter just when we're shifting the gears. So say I went up into second gear there. As soon as I got it into gear, I put my hand right back on the steering wheel. When I have my hand on the steering wheel, I kind of want to have it where I'm gripping the wheel on both sides of it. So, 10 and 2, 3 and 9. We don't have airbags on here, so we don't have to really worry about our airbag going off and whacking us in the face. I don't know any trucks that actually have airbags, besides a few modern ones, but most of them, you don't have airbags in them. Okay, so make sure we're gripped on the steering wheel here. The instructors or the people, judging you on your driving test, they do not like your hands sitting flat on here. I know some people, once you get used to driving, you kind of drive these trucks with your palms a little bit, especially if you have, good power steering in there. You kind of drive it with your palms a little bit. They want to see you actually gripping the wheel, both hands on the sides of the wheel, not with your palms. Okay, so a couple other tips as we're turning and stuff, make sure we use our turn signals. With a lot of our trucks, our turn signals don't cancel out for us that good. Some of them don't cancel out at all for us, so make sure that we put them back into the neutral position, our turn signals, after we make the turn. We want to slow down for our turns. We want to In this truck here, we want to be in, second or third gear every time we make a turn. We don't want to make high-speed turns in fourth or fifth gear. We want to be, 10 to 15 miles an hour or below whenever we're making a turn. When we're going down the road, we want to be centered between our lines, so exactly centered between our yellow and white line. When we're making turns and stuff, we don't want to cross any lines. We don't want to cross the yellow line or the white line, especially we don't want to cross the yellow line in the oncoming traffic. Gets a little harder when we have a trailer behind us. We'll have to, do a fancy J-hook or something like that. But again, we still don't want to cross in the oncoming traffic. We don't want to, have any head-on collisions, or we don't want to make anyone have to, jerk it over to the other lane and hit somebody else. So be very cautious with that kind of stuff. We'll just drive around our parking lot here for a minute. We'll shift through a couple of the gears here. I'll show you guys the high and low range. Rear end real quick while we're right here in the parking lot. Then we'll do a little more shifting when we're out on the road there. So to get started, we push our clutch in. We start our vehicle up. We do a safe start with it. Okay, release our parking brake. We don't have a trailer behind us right now, so we only have to worry about our yellow knob there. If we were on a hill or anything right now, we would now put a little pressure on our brake pedal. The hole's in place. We're on a nice flat land here, so we really don't have to do it. So we're going to push it, go up in the second gear here. We're going to slowly let out the clutch. So nice and slow letting out the clutch. And we're going to give it a little gas as we're starting to see our RPMs drop a little bit. We'll give it a little gas. And we'll start moving nice and slow. If I wanted to shift up into the next gear now, I'd push my clutch in a little bit, and I would slowly, gradually let it go into third gear. You'll feel it go in itself. What you don't want to do, you don't want to jerk it into gear like that. You'll hit the transmission, you'll hear a lot of grinding. You want to do a nice gradual pull back on the shifter and let it fall into gear there. Okay? So I could jerk it into gear. Again, it's not good for it. Or I could gradually just put tension on it and let it fall into gear. You kind of see there that there's a couple stages there where it kind of just falls into gear for me. Okay, so again, we're in second gear, slowly taking off here. Hand back on the wheel, foot on the floor. I'm going to push in the clutch, let it fall into third gear, just slowly let out my clutch. So whenever we're shifting through our gears here, make sure our RPMs are in the proper range there. Pushing in our clutch just a little ways, let it fall into the next gear. Sometimes it goes into gear a little bit hard. What we don't want to do, again, we don't want to jam it into gear. Like I wouldn't want to push the clutch and just jam it up into gear like that. Sometimes it would grind on me. See if I get it to grind here. Of course, it doesn't want to grind today on me. You see right now it doesn't really want to go into fourth gear. Right. See, I wouldn't want to force it in. You can hear it grinding there a little bit. So what I would do in that situation is kind of double clutch it a little bit. I'd push in the clutch, let it out into neutral, push in the clutch again, let it slide into the fourth gear there. You can do that in a split second. It doesn't take that much time, literally seconds, or less than a second to do that. Okay, so like I said, this truck here is a 5-speed. I'm usually just using 2 through 5th unless I'm loaded, then I'll use first gear too. But this truck also does have a splitter in it. So it has a high-low range splitter for the rear end. So when my splitter is down right here, it's a little red knob on my shifter here. When that's down, it's my rear end's into the low range. Okay, so I'll go through the splitting gears here with you a little bit for this one here. Again, it's just the high and low range for my rear end. So if I have a high-low range for my rear end, once I start moving, so right now I'm in low 2, I'm taking off. Okay, now if I wanted to split my gears, I'd go up into high 2. So what I would do, I could just pull up on this knob right here. I don't have to push in my clutch or anything yet. I'll just lift up on my knob. Now when I push in my clutch, my rear end's going to shift for me, and I can let out the clutch. And now I'm in high 2 range instead of low 2. Okay? So now if I wanted to go into third gear, I'd want to go into third low. So for this one, I would push in the clutch, and as I push in the clutch, I'd go into third gear and push in on my little knob there at the same time. So right now, I'm in third low. Okay, if I wanted to go into third high, I would lift up on the splitter, then pushing the clutch. And now my rear end's in high again, so now I'm in third high. If I wanted to shift up into fourth gear right now, so I want to shift into 4 low, I push in my clutch, put it up in the fourth while I'm pushing in on my rear end at the same time. Just do it up in there. I didn't have enough speed to do that one properly here in the parking lot, but you get the idea there. So I'm just splitting my rear end high and low on range there. Again, I only need to use that if I'm fully loaded, with a trailer behind me with maybe the backhoe or something really heavy on there. Bulldozer especially. Most of the time we're just going to ride around with our rear end in the high mode. Okay, so let's get ready to take off here. First thing we want to do, we want to put on our seatbelt. So make sure that's fully secured. Give our mirrors and everything and once again, make sure they're well adjusted. We should have done that in our pre-trip inspection, but just double check them. Okay, so we're going to push in the clutch, release our parking brake, and we can put it into second gear. This truck here, we can normally take off in second gear most of the time unless we're fully loaded, either with a trailer or load of gravel or something in our dump truck here. So we're going to fully release our clutch here, but we're going to do it nice and slow, and as we're releasing it, we're going to give it just a little bit of gas. And get moving here. Okay, so whenever we're coming up to a stop, we're going to fully depress the clutch, and we're going to start stepping on the brake pedal. Come to a complete stop. We'll turn on our turn signal because we're going to take a left-hand turn here. So we got our turn signal on. We'll start moving a little bit, slowly releasing our clutch, and we're going to give it a little bit of gas, and we'll start moving. Okay, so as we're moving, we start to get up the speed here. To shift into the next gear, we're going to push in the clutch, and we're going to slowly take it down into third gear, and put our hands back up on the wheel. Okay, so we're in third gear now. We're revving it up. We're getting up a little over 2,000 RPMs, and now we can push in the clutch. We can go up into fourth gear, kind of just slide it up in there nicely. We don't want to jam it into gear. We don't want to go really fast in. We kind of want to just nicely put a little pressure on it and let it slide right in. So I'm going to take a right turn up here. So I turn on my right turn signal. I'm going to start slowing down. I'm going to start downshifting. So I'll give it a little brake action, pushing my clutch. So I'm shifted into third gear. Now I'll shift into second gear. Kind of come up to a stop. Whenever I come up to a stop, I got a vehicle in front of me right now. I want to make sure I can still see the bottom of their tires. So if I can see their rear tires, I'm at a good stopping distance away. So I'm going to pull a little closer up to my line here at the stop sign. Okay, got a few cars coming, so we're going to wait a minute here. So this will give me a chance to talk about the shifting in this a little bit. So this truck here is a synchronized shifting, so I don't have to double clutch or anything. We will do a little double clutching when we get out on the road here, but for the synchronized transmission, we don't have to double clutch. We can just shift through it, kind of like we would a regular truck. Just we gotta shift it a little harder. Okay, so I used out my clutch, starting to move here. Get up into the next gear here. Again, every time it gets up to about 2,000 RPMs, maybe a little higher, we're going to shift up. You just don't want it to get up to about 2,500 RPMs. This truck here doesn't have a lot of power, so you got to kind of let the engine do its job and get a little higher RPM to keep us moving here. Okay, I'm up in the fifth gear right now. This one's a 5-speed transmission inside here. I do have a splitting gears on here. I got a 2-speed rear end in this truck, so I can technically split the gears. So technically it's a 10-speed, but only 5 speeds in the transmission, and then I can split those speeds. We usually only have to use the splitter if we're hauling something really heavy. So if we have a trailer behind us, like the bulldozer or something out there, maybe a backhoe, we might have to shift the gears. Most of the other time, we can just use our 5 speeds for 99% of the stuff we do in this truck. Okay, so I'm in 5th gear, going down the road here. I want to continuously scan with my eyes. I'm checking both gears all the time. I'm checking my gauges. I'm looking at my mirrors, the cars behind me. I'm looking ahead as far as I can to look for added dangers and stuff. Every time I come up to an intersection or anything, like we got one coming up here, I'm going to look for cars on there, make sure they're stopping at the stop signs, make sure they're stopping at the stoplights. if I have any red lights or anything like that, traffic lights, I'm going to be looking ahead of those to see if they've been green a long time, see if I got to start slowing down, stuff like that. Okay, so whenever I'm going down the road here, I want to stay perfectly centered between the lines. I don't want to hug the white line or the yellow line. Sometimes if it's a narrow road and there's big trucks and stuff coming at you, sometimes you might have to get over to the white line a little bit just so your mirrors don't hit. Both of you are about as wide as the lane. Sometimes your mirrors might collide as you're going down the road. We want to stay exactly our speed limit for our road test purposes. We don't want to go above or below the speed limit. This is a 55 mile an hour road. I want to try to keep it right at 55 miles an hour. Okay, so I got a turn coming up here. So I'm going to turn on my turn signal a little early since I got vehicles behind me just to give them some warning. I'm going to start to downshift here. So I downshifted into fourth gear, slowly let out the clutch, downshifted into third gear. I want to take turns in third gear or less. I don't want to do anything higher than that. Whenever I take my turns, I want to make sure that I'm between the lines, that I don't cross the lines when I turn. I don't want any part of my truck crossing the line as I turn. Okay, so now we're upshifting again, getting through our gears here. The fourth gear accelerating, up to about 2,200 RPMs. I'm going to push the clutch, let it slide into fifth gear, put my hand back on the wheel, slowly let out the clutch here. Whenever I'm upshifting or downshifting, I don't want to freewheel, they call it. Ride with the clutch in for a long period of time or with it in neutral for a long period of time. The rule of thumb is you don't want to go further than the length of your vehicle. So this is kind of a shorter truck, so that's kind of a narrow little window, but just kind of keep that in mind. Usually that's a rule of thumb for like a truck and trailer. You wouldn't want to freewheel longer than the length of the truck and trailer. So say about 70 feet, you don't want to freewheel for that long. You want to have it in a gear. You got a lot more control when it's in a gear than you do when it's freewheeling. When it's freewheeling, especially when you're going downhill or anything, you're getting a lot of speed really fast. Do another left turn up here. I'm going to start slowing down, let off the gas pedal, turn on my turn signal. I'm going to start downshifting. So I'm going to downshift to fourth. Let the clutch out, kind of let the RPMs build up a little bit. Let it gradually slow me down, downshifting to third. Kind of gradually let it slow me down. It's kind of a narrow road, so I'm going to go down into second for this one here. Okay, so I get into my intersection where I can safely turn without crossing any lines. Check for traffic in all directions there. I kind of just proceed through my turn there. Okay, so remember, keep checking your mirrors as you're going through the gears here. Just make sure no one's coming up on you too fast or anything, where you might have to get over to the shoulder or anything. So the biggest thing to look for while you're shifting is obviously no grinding gears or anything. Nice smooth shifts. Be in control of your shifts. Make sure that you're not over revving the engine or anything. Make sure you have a little bit of room to go for it. You don't want to be in too low of a gear. Right now, if I was down into fourth gear, I'll downshift into fourth gear to show you here. So right now my RPMs are maxed out right here. I got a rev limiter in here, so it's not going to hurt the engine or anything. It's only going to let it build up so far. I'm at about 45 miles an hour in my 55 mile an hour zone, and my RPMs are redlined. I can't go any further than the red lines. What would happen if I blew out a tire or something right now, I wouldn't be able to control the truck. Usually if I have a steer tire or something blow out, I want to accelerate through the blowout. I want to give it more gas so it doesn't automatically pull me over to the side. So I don't have any more gas to give it right here. So I don't want to ride around on what they call the governor, where it's maxed out, where I don't have extra RPMs. I want to ride around in my gear where I have more RPMs to work with. So like on this one, fifth gear, I can have a little RPMs to play with. This truck here should have another gear in it, like an overdrive or something. It doesn't, so it's not the perfect example of this truck. Right now I'm doing 55 miles an hour at about 2,200 RPMs. If I wanted to let off the gas, like I just had a car pull out in front of me here, so I can let off my gas, slow down a little bit, slow have a little RPMs, just had a little pull. So I'm going to downshift now. I got a car up here that's turning, so I'm going to downshift once again in the third gear, just so I have some RPMs here to deal with. You can always upshift quick if you need to. I keep turning out of my way so now I can start upshifting again. so we're in fourth gear now, up 2,500 RPMs. We're going to shift up to fifth gear here. Okay. So, as I was saying, in fifth gear, oh, I got another car ahead of me that's turning. Okay, got out of my way, so I'm good to go. So, as I was saying, I'm in fifth gear here. I got some RPMs to play with both ways. I can let off the gas and still have some power without it bugging or bogging down or stalling out. And I have some more throttle where I can rev it up if I had to pass someone or if I had a tire blowout or something like that, where I can still accelerate through that. So just kind of pick the gear that's best for the situation, kind of do it by feel and by RPMs. We don't want to have it revved up too much, and we don't want to have it too little. So if we get up a hill or something, we wouldn't want to stall out one of that little hill. Okay, so I'm coming up into a roundabout up here. So for the roundabouts, I want to get to the posted speed for the roundabout before I enter the actual roundabout. So here I'm going to downshift. This roundabout's a 15-mile-an-hour roundabout, so I'm going to downshift into third gear. I want to be doing that 15 miles an hour before I even enter the entryway for the roundabout. So I'm going to yield to people in the roundabout. Nobody's in this roundabout, so I'm going to continue through it. So if we're going through a roundabout, we want to stay between the lanes. And when we go to exit our roundabout, we want to use our turn signal. So I'm exiting now. I turn on my turn signal to show that I'm exiting the roundabout. And I'm going to go through there. I'm not going to start upshifting until I get out of the roundabout. So there was kind of an example of it going hard into fourth gear for me. I don't know if you saw it with my foot what I did, is it didn't want to go into fourth, so I kept a little pressure on it, and I let off the clutch just a little bit and pushed it back in just to get the transmission and the engine spinning at the proper speeds to get it that interlock. And another roundabout coming up here, so I'm going to start slowing down for the roundabout. Again, this is a 15-mile-an-hour roundabout that I'm coming into here. We've got three roundabouts right here, side by side, that we're going through. Okay, so let's slow down to third gear right now. If there's a lot of traffic in it, I might even slow down a little bit more. I got my foot on the brake pedal, just slowly giving it a little pressure, let the transmission slow it down, and let my brakes slow it down. So this year I'm going to exit right away, so I'm going to turn on my turn signal, and I'm going to exit the roundabout. As I'm exiting, make sure that you're between the lines, make sure you don't get up to too much speed before you get out of the roundabout. So you can see there, again, I went into fourth kind of hard. I'll show you guys that again. I don't have anybody behind me, so I'll drop down into third again. Okay, so I'm down in third gear right now. Some of the gears you go into might be a little hard, like this one, fourth is a little hard. So what you do, pushing the clutch, take it up into fourth. If it doesn't want to go in for you, kind of let out the clutch and then push it back in, and then let it out again, and it'll put you right into fourth gear. So basically what I did there, I double clutched it. So with non-synchronized transmissions, you have a double clutch for every gear. So the way you double clutch is, right now I'm in fourth gear, I'm going to push in my clutch, I'm going to put it into neutral for a split second, then I'm going to let out the clutch, and we're going to push the clutch again, put it up into fourth gear, and let out the clutch again into the gear. Okay? Or in the fifth gear. Okay? So, I'll show you that real quick. So, I pushed in my clutch, I put it in neutral for a split second, let it out, push the clutch again, put it in the fifth, and take it off. So, that's double clutch. So, like I said, this is a synchronized transmission where we don't have the double clutch. But one of our other trucks that we use sometimes, you do have the double clutch for every gear in it. That truck there is also a 10-speed where we have a high and low range. That one we shift through our 5 gears, then we switch it into high range, and switch to our other 5 gears up to 10th gear. Okay, I'm coming into my last roundabout here for this trip. So I'm going to start downshifting, get it down to 15 miles an hour before I enter the roundabout. And I want to take my foot off the clutch each time. I want to put it in the gear, have my hands on the wheel each time, and I'm shifting it. Okay? So I'm down to 15 miles an hour. This one here, I went into second gear because this roundabout's a little busier. You don't know where cars are coming from here. Okay? We're in the roundabout. If we have to go in a low gear in the roundabout and you're under 15 miles an hour, it's okay. We don't want to shift through curves or anything, so we're not going to shift in our roundabout. Okay, we're coming out of the roundabout, we can upshift. Okay, so watch your speed zones. I have a little speed sign up ahead that I can see. Since I'm continuously scanning my mirrors and looking far ahead and everything, I can kind of see added things before I come up to it. So I can see that added speed zone up ahead here, so I can get kind of prepared for that. So I'm going from 50 miles an hour down to a 30 mile an hour speed zone. So I'm going to downshift the gear here, try to get down to 30 miles an hour before I actually get to my actual sign here. So I passed the sign, the warning sign telling me that it's a 30 mile an hour zone ahead. I want to be going 30 miles an hour by the time I hit the actual speed limit sign. If I don't have a warning sign for that, I want to be doing 30 miles an hour by the time I hit the second speed sign. There should be 2 speed signs whenever there's a change in any speed. So turn into a 30 mile an hour zone, so even if it didn't have a warning, it should have 2 speed signs that are, a couple hundred feet apart from each other. Okay, so I'll slow down to my 30 miles an hour now. I'm still between the lines. I'm in a good gear here where I'm not too revved up or lugging the engine too much. I'm in a nice 1800 RPM, so I could let off the throttle if I had to. I could give it a lot more throttle if I needed to. Okay, so now I'm coming up on a set of railroad tracks. Whenever I'm coming up on railroad tracks, I want to make sure I'm slowed down for them. So I'm going to downshift into 3rd gear here just for these ones. I want to look both ways when I'm crossing the tracks. Obviously, if there's a train coming, the little warning device should be on and the little gate's down. But just in case they're not working, you definitely don't want to get hit by a train with a truck. So you want to look both ways at every railroad crossing. Okay, I crossed the railroad crossing. I'm going to start going a little faster here. Get back up to my 30 miles an hour. Some of the vehicles that we drive, we have to stop at railroad crossings. So some buses, definitely tanker trucks and stuff like that, we're going to be stopping at every railroad crossing. Okay, we're kind of coming into the city limits here of Canandaigua, so it's a little busy down through here on some days, so I'm going to be watching for pedestrians and stuff like that. It's kind of early in the morning, so there's not a lot of people out yet, but it's still a pretty busy little tiny city here. So we want to be checking the crosswalks, we want to be checking for pedestrians, we want to be checking for people opening car doors and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm going to be taking a left up here onto the main drag here. So I'm going to get in the turn lane, turn on my left turn signal, downshift to a proper turn speed. Right now I have a green light, but it's a stale green light. So I'm going to approach with caution. It looks good, so I'm going to turn. So when I make my turn, this is 2 lanes that I'm turning into. Turn into the lane that's closest to me. So technically I'm in the fast lane right now. When it's safe to do so, I want to get over into the slow lane whenever I'm driving a commercial motor vehicle. But I don't want to do that on railroad tracks or intersections like I just crossed. So I passed all that stuff. I'm going to turn on my turn signal and merge over into the next lane. So this road here is only 30 miles an hour to the main street here. So I'm going to get up to 30 miles an hour and stay there. Again, I'm looking for pedestrians, people in crosswalks, people getting ready to open car doors, people parallel parking, all kinds of dangers through here. So I got a, just turned green for me. I was going to say I got a red light up here, but it just turned green. So again, I'm always looking ahead for lights that are about ready to change. Might be a red light up ahead that's been red for a long time. Maybe I think it's going to turn green. Maybe I'll, kind of slow down a little bit so I don't have to come to a complete stop at that red light. I'll slow down a little bit ahead of time so I can keep some motion going. Or the other way around, if I see a light that's been green a long time, I look at the intersection, there's people on both sides waiting to come out, waiting for their light to change. I'll know that my light's going to change any second. I don't want to have too much speed up, or I've got to make a really drastic stop. It's really hard to stop these vehicles. They take, twice or 3 times as much stopping distance as a car does. So I want to make sure that I have enough room and enough leeway. So there's the stale green light, so I was going kind of slow. And the good thing I did is it turned red on me before I would have been able to get through the intersection there. So again, I want to be down to 2nd gear by the time I come to a complete stop, if I'm coming to a complete stop. That way I'm all ready to take off. I don't want to be in like 3rd or 4th when I come to that stop if I can help it, and then put it in the 2nd, because chances are I might miss that 2nd gear. It might be hard to find it, especially in this truck here. This truck here, the gears are so super close together. So as I'm taking off through intersections like that, I can't shift through the intersection. Technically I could, but the rules of the road are you don't shift through the intersection. So I wait till I go past the intersection, and then I can shift through my gears there. Some of the intersections are super long, super wide, especially if it's multiple lanes. So, it seems like you're going too slow, but just do you. Don't worry about other people, around you. They can wait for you. Okay, so this is the other intersection. I'm coming up down through here. This is kind of a narrow little passage here. This is down by the lake down here. So it's kind of narrow through here. So I want to do my best to stay between the lines. Sometimes, you got to cross the lines a little bit. Sometimes, or right on the lines if it's a super narrow road. But we're going to do our best to stay between the lines. So this is a busy little area for pedestrians, especially this time of year. It's summertime right now that I'm driving around in, so lots of people down here at the lake. So we're going to go nice and slow. We're going to look for people in crosswalks, looking for car doors, look for animals, stuff like that. Okay, so I just had a person go through a crosswalk in front of me here, so I slowed down a little bit. If I have an unsynchronized transmission, one that I have the double clutch, I can also float the gears in that one. So technically I could float the gears, I wouldn't even have to use the clutch. I would only use the clutch for start and stop, and other than that I'd be able to upshift and downshift. With our synchronized transmissions, you don't want to do that. It's hard on the synchronizers, and plus for our road test purposes that we're training for right now, we have to use the clutch in that. We either have to use it as normal for a synchronized transmission, or we got to double clutch it for one that we have to. We can't float gears during our road test. Buddy, that's it for today. So again, remember to review your study manual and everything, and practice, practice, practice. The only way you're going to get good at driving and get good enough to pass your CDL road test is to get out there on the road and practice. So have a great day, and give her diesel.